Hello, this is Lisa LaRose here on Connect to Love on PRNFM, and I'm joined by the wonderful Michael J. Russ. And today we have a very, very special guest that's also joining us, and she makes the most amazing, beautiful music. And we've talked about her music a little bit on a few shows, and her name is Franki Love. And I'm so honored and so grateful that you're able to join us. First, I'd like to welcome Franki and Michael to the show.
You.
Welcome. It's
Thank
such
you.
a blessing, such a blessing to have you
Thank
both.
You
and I as often as my days go, sometimes things unfold. And there's a book that really touched my soul years ago called Soul Prince, and it's all about the path to fulfillment. And one of the things in there, it said, so life for each of us is either an adventure in which we answer the call or nothing. And I thought about that, and on last week's show, we were talking about a vision and why having a vision is so important. And that when we think about what we want to achieve, when we're going to achieve our dreams or be successful, oftentimes we're not very clear about what that is. And so, Franki, I'm so excited because a few episodes ago we were talking about finding your passion. And I spoke a little bit about when you find your path and what inspires you and how you want to share that. And so first, I'd love to welcome you and just ask you, when you were younger, so just to give the audience a little bit of background, how was it that you found your path to music, and what inspired you to take up piano and follow your passion?
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show, and I love your show. I've listened to you and Michael, and I just want to say you're inspiring me, and I love what you both are doing. And what got me into music was that I was lucky because my mom, she loved interior decorating and making the home look beautiful, and she had gotten a grand piano, and I think originally she just wanted it in our home because it was aesthetically beautiful. It appeared beautiful. But then when my siblings and I all turned around 5 years old, she said, you know what, I think everyone should take piano lessons. And I was really lucky because my piano teacher was a jazz pianist who was, he just always had candy to give to me at the piano lesson. And I mean, when you're 5, I mean, that is very motivating. Kids will do a lot of things for sugar. So that got me that got me practicing every week because I was dreaming of my Kit Kat bar and my Twix bar and what is Vinny going to bring me next? And so I played the piano, and when you're doing something every day, even if it's for 5 minutes a day, if you do that for 10 years, you're going to be good at it. And so when I was a teenager, my skill level, was pretty good. And then I went off to college, and I had no idea what I was going to dedicate my life to. And I was very confused. I knew I wanted to do something that would inspire people. I knew I wanted to do something that I was passionate about, and those were the two things. And so I tried to kind of get into, I moved from New York to Los Angeles, and I went to college in California, and I tried to get into the whole kind of show business type of thing. And it was very kind of, I kept hitting a wall because it just wasn't, I was kind of doing the acting thing, and then I started to, when I was in college, I started to write screenplays. But then I started to heavily get into meditation, and I would walk along the beautiful beaches of Venice Beach and Santa Monica, and meditation has always been kind of this open door, this channel to finding and hearing the truth. So I would walk every day, and I would focus on receiving a vision. And I remember taking this class with Michael Beckwith at Agape. This was probably about 4 years ago, where he wrote a book about letting the vision come to you, and that's kind of what I was doing, instead of, because we live in such a society that's kind of about, like, I want this and I want that, and I'm going to, I just want. And so I love meditation because you kind of can allow yourself to receive a truthful message that's not from the ego. And so, long story short, I was kind of asking the universe, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to do? And I was asking the universe with also the intention of, I really want to do something that can help people and inspire people in something I like. And then through these really interesting synchronistic events that were, shown to me within a year's time, I was sitting at a piano, and suddenly I wrote my first song within a couple hours, and then I knew, because it was kind of shown to me through these synchronistic events, you're supposed to do music, and it was not coincidental at all. I knew in my soul that, okay, I'm being shown this is what I'm supposed to do, and once I wrote my first song, I just knew it. I knew, okay, this is what I'm meant to do in this lifetime.
Awesome.
That's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. Michael, I'll let you.
No, I was simply going to say divinely guided to do something that that definitely is in being of service to others. I'm a musician myself, Frankie. I don't know, you know this. I've been playing drums since I was 7, and being 64 right now, that's a long time. And I've got a brother who's into music. I used to play with him a lot. So, I mean, music is I've talked about it on the show here many times, about how music is something that grounds me. And what I wanted to ask you is that you've already alluded to the fact that meditation helps you receive a message that's free of ego, free of the noise, the drama, the lower frequencies of life, helps you kind of elevate your own frequencies. And in listening to your music, I know what it does for me. The question I have to ask you is, how did you? I mean, music is there's many different types of music that are out there, and music is something that moves me in various ways, takes me in one direction or another. But you have something very special associated with your music, I hear, that is frequency related. And I really, really would love to expand upon, when you're writing and producing your music now, what the actual objective is with regard to the people who are hearing it. Is there an intent with regard to your music that does help elevate people's mood and their frequencies?
Well, as far as the intention goes, it varies from song to song. And I will talk about the 2 recent albums that I did with the intention, with an album that I released called The Sun in 2020, and then an album I released in this year in 2022 called The Moon. The intention was to help people heal. When when my mom was in the hospital, she was dying of cancer, and you know, it's these traumatic moments, I think, that happen to us as humans that can transform us, and seeing people in the hospital suffering really helped me to create an intention with the sun and the moon. When you see people who are hurting, and you, it's very, I think that it opens, it forever changes you. And so I feel that music in itself is something that makes people feel good, but I think that there's so much suffering that's going on in the world that we don't know about, that we do know about. But I think in general, I think that everyone is fighting a hard battle. And, you know, this life experience that we're having, it's not easy. We all have to experience death of loved ones, and we have to experience more challenges. And so when I set out to do those two albums, I was imagining, you know, people who were really hurting, and the pandemic had just started, and a lot of people were losing loved ones. So I imagined, when I was writing songs for the sun and singing on that album, I imagined, what can I create for someone who is dying inside? Like, what if they're alone, isolated? What can make someone who is suffering feel better? What can make them feel less alone? And how can I put that into lyrics, into a song, and what can make people feel better? That was the intention. I know it's so like heavy, but you know, I think that whatever kind of traumatic events that happen to us in our life, for me, when my mom passed away from cancer, seeing her sick and dying, you know, I didn't want to hold that inside. I had to kind of transform that into music, and that was the way I did it.
That was
That's
your
awesome.
second album, correct, Frankie? That you wrote and channeled into the music. Is that correct?
The Sun is the third album that I've written.
No,
and the Moon
but
is the fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Odious. So was that not for your mother?
Yes, Odious is the second album, and that album was a grieving album, and that was an album that I wrote right after my mom passed away, and I was very fortunate to be mentored by an amazing man named Phil Ramone, who's a legendary music producer, and he was a dear friend of mine and a mentor to me. And after my mom passed away, he said, "You need to sit at the piano and write now." And so Odious is an album I wrote, and the intention with that album was to really heal myself. And I was hoping, if these songs can heal me, because I was very broken, hopefully, you know, someone who's feeling broken can feel like they're not alone.
Mhm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, you know, and I'm so glad and so grateful to you, because there's so many individuals in this world who sometimes feel lost or alone, and they don't know what to turn to. And really, when you do find a piece of music that moves you or soothes you, I think so many I always say it's sort of like a soundtrack for your life. A song comes on and it reminds you of a time period, whether it be joyful or sorrowful, or maybe it was just something that relaxes you. it really can change the physiology of the body. And not to get too much into the science, but there's a wonderful book by Dr. Chaudhry, and it's called Sound Medicine. And she was a traditional MD who kind of went back to her roots in Ayurvedic medicine. And one of the things that I really like to kind of anchor sometimes into science, because a lot of people don't perhaps understand that the frequencies do affect the human body. Even inaudible frequencies affect the human brain. And when we recognize that there is an ability to manipulate what's going on actually even in the DNA expression, and one of the things that she found, and she cited a research that was done at the Israel Deaconess Medical Center, where they drew blood from different participants, and some they had meditate, and the other they had listen to music. And they found that the music actually changed their DNA expression, which there's a whole chapter on this. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it's just so fascinating. And so when you understand that the frequencies do affect the body, they affect the human consciousness, they can promote healing. There is so much evidence, and your music, I believe, is tuned to 432, and that frequency is aimed at the heart chakra, and listening to it leads to a level of mental and emotional clarity. So, for instance, so maybe you could tell the audience a little bit about your experience maybe writing and composing and incorporating that frequency that affects the heart.
Sure. Well, going through, I started to research the frequencies in 2020 when the pandemic began. And so 440 hertz frequency is what we're listening to right now with most of the music worldwide. It used to be 432 hertz frequency, and then they changed it, I believe, in the 1920s. And there's a lot of different stories about why they switched it to 440 hertz frequency, but I can't quite figure out which one's right, because there's a lot of conspiracy, theories and so forth. But what I do know from the research that I've done is that 432 hertz frequency is what, like you said, it opens up the heart chakra. And when people listen to the music, it actually helps people connect more with their intuition, which is so important for us as people, because that's like the all-knowing place, your intuition. And what I do know is that the 440 hertz frequency, with the change of that frequency, that what the world is listening to right now, it's said that the 440 hertz frequency doesn't help us too much to connect with, to be in tune with our intuition, which is really, that in itself is very interesting to know that information. Now, as far as the sun is in 432 hertz, and I worked with an engineer where we made sure that all the songs are at 432 hertz. And the interesting part is during the pandemic, I don't know how you guys were feeling, but it was very challenging to experience everything that was going on, especially at the beginning. And The Sun is the first album that I've completely written and produced, and I never produced an entire album, but sometimes you have to trust what sounds good to you, and you have to trust your feelings, so when I created that album, when we made the songs 432 hertz, I remember that when I listened to the music in 440 hertz, because some of the songs I wanted to compare it and leave some songs in 440 hertz and then listen to the songs in 432 hertz, because of course, you know, if you're not experienced with this a lot, which I wasn't at the time, you can be a skeptic and think, well, does this really do anything? But the 432 hertz was healing me, and it was healing my daughter because she was having a hard time too, and the music would help her anxiety and mine, and it would help her fall asleep. And she would say to me, this music is like, please play your songs for me because these songs are helping me.
Beautiful.
And so, yeah, so that's, I also want to say that just a couple weeks ago, I released Silent Night for the holidays. And so I released a 432 hertz version, and I released just a 440 hertz. And this morning, I looked up on Spotify to see how the songs are doing, and the 432 hertz song has been put on, I think, over 350 playlists.
Wow.
I have nothing to do with that. I just released it, and it's people who found it, and right now it's over 350 playlists. Yesterday it was on 220 playlists. And tomorrow, you know, by Christmas, who knows, maybe it will be on 1,000 playlists. But I also checked the 440 hertz version this morning, and it's on 5 playlists, and that's it.
Isn't that interesting? Wow.
That is interesting. Yeah,
wow.
One helps. It's a sort of a, I could say a subliminal kind of thing. The way that it impacts you is when it impacts you from a heart level, totally different from the 440, which is likely just from the level of the third dimension, so to speak. What we encounter on a daily basis versus getting deeper. I love that. It's interesting what you're saying about how it helped your daughter. People can, in my view, connect with music in a way, or music can be designed and created, intuited to assist people with all kinds of things. And I can tell you that just music is something that I myself use, as I said, to ground. If I'm not playing to ground myself, if I've had to deal with the 3D world in a very intense way, shedding all that is easy when I listen to your music. It's not something I play to, obviously, but it's just something that I just sit around and just listen to, and it can just reset me. That's really what it does. I have a deep connection with my heart and the world and all of that, and it just compounds that, and that's what I love about it. And I encourage our listeners out there to check out. I'm gonna put a shameless plug in for you right now. Where would be the best place for people to connect with your music? Kind of give them an idea of the services where they can connect with your albums.
Sure.
The moon and the sun.
Sure. If you go to Spotify, you can hear the music. You can hear it on Bandcamp. You can hear it on Apple and Amazon and YouTube, Pandora. So all of those places, if you Google Franki Love, you will see all the places that you can hear the music.
Yeah, and it's Franki with an I. Yeah.
With an I. I was going to say, it's Franki with an I. Franki with an I, no E.
Franki with an I. I'd love to ask you, because Michael and I delve into this conversation a lot, and I'd love to have some insight on your path and what it was. So you started your own label, and that label is Love is the Truth Music, which is fantastic. I love your logo. But for somebody who is thinking about embarking on a new adventure, so it's easy to take the path less traveled, which would be to hire a producer, to say that I'm going to start my own label and I'm going to do this myself and I don't know what it's going to look like, what is that process for you? And just share a little bit about trust and you know, following your passion and really what led you to do those things, and just maybe some words of encouragement for somebody who's looking to try something new.
Okay. Well, when the pandemic started, I had just funded through Kickstarter The Sun, and I was feeling so excited, but when the pandemic started, we were told not to, you know, be with people or go, you know, and that meant not to go to music studios. So in the past, I was so used to going into a professional music studio, working with amazing Grammy Award-winning producers, and that's kind of the path that I would take. But when the pandemic happened, I had no choice but to do everything independently. And so I always feel that whenever we're experiencing as people things that we think are, you know, where we feel stuck or we feel challenged or we just feel as though we have a misfortune that has landed in our lap, I always think that there's something good that can come out of it. And something definitely good came out of my challenge of not being able to work with a producer and having to do it on my own. So I just took my microphone and set up, you know, a mini recording studio, and I was really confused at first on how I was going to do this because I was so used to having, you know, all the bells and whistles and the, you know, musicians who would come in who have toured with, one of my friends has toured with Sade, and then another friend has toured with, I think Rihanna. So I was used to these like major musicians coming into the studio and playing with me. And here I was in my bathroom, you know, like trying to, you know, turning on the TV for my daughter and in the downstairs room and saying, shh, be quiet. And I go into the bathroom or put her to sleep and go into the bathroom or my clothes closet, and I started singing in the mic. And then I'd hear it back and go, this sounds the same as when I'm in a music studio paying, you know, $100 an hour. This sounds, I would put a little reverb. And then I would go back and switch up things musically, and I would think, wow, this is so much better. I'm in my pajamas, and I am, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in my clothes closet, and I'm producing my own music. And so I started with one song, and then ever since then, it's just been amazing, like 10 times better than what I was doing before. So what I would say, I know your question was, what would I say? I think you said to people to maybe encourage people to, you know, maybe do things independently. We are so, and I think about this every week, we are so lucky and fortunate to have access to the entire world, to be living in this time right now where on your phone I can just upload a song on Spotify and reach the world, because you couldn't do that back in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s.
No, you couldn't.
You couldn't. And so I have people who follow my music all over the world, and it's such a cool feeling to know that this is because we can do this now. And I think that it's important to be grateful for that, and I'm so grateful for that. And so whatever people are doing, whether you're a painter or a writer, if you're writing a book, or if you're, you guys have a radio show, whatever you're doing, if you're making whatever it is, it could even be, you're teaching tennis, doing tennis tutorials for people. You could do anything you want and do it and make a living, and a good living. So So I think that we don't need, before I started my own label and I started to produce myself, I felt very kind of almost, I don't know what the word is, but I didn't feel empowered like I do now. I felt as though I always needed so much help to get one song out in the world. But now I just do it in my home studio. I don't do it in a closet, really. Well, I still do. I put the mic in the closet just to and I start singing, and I still do it after my daughter goes to sleep, and I do, I could do a song and sing it in 1 or 2 hours. So,
so you give a new meaning to going into the closet instead of coming out of the closet. Going to the
That's
closet.
very true.
Yeah, I mean, actually, a lot of the older mediums way back in early Theosophists, they would find a small cupboard, and they would meditate in that small cupboard and they would do it at the same time, every day or whatever it was, and allow the energies to flow through. And so I think it's that enclosed space sometimes is helpful for creativity. And, I just wanted to comment about that. I think it's really fantastic that is where the magic occurs.
When you're recording vocals, the best thing to do is to have like a professional vocal booth. But because I don't have one, many people who have home studios, they use their closets because when you sing, it just makes the sound better with your vocals.
Mm-hmm. That's true. This, in all fairness, I simply have to tell you, to piggyback on what you said, I had the first 2 audiobooks I did in 1998, 1999. I produced in a studio. I wrote it, went into a studio. I had an engineer working with me. And then at $30 and $70 an hour back in those days. And, I'm sitting here and I would do everything possible to walk in the door and just to be very efficient so I wouldn't waste a lot of time and spend a lot of unnecessary money. But then I discovered the clothes closet, the walk-in clothes closet as well. And I did 3 audiobooks in my own clothes closet on Sony SoundForge. Then what I did was I went into a studio and I had the tracks recorded individually, and then I went into the studio and only spent, I think, 2 hours, 3 hours tops, just putting the tracks together into one cohesive audiobook with music at the beginning and end of every track that I'd have some of my I tapped a couple of professional smooth jazz musicians and had them send me something when they were in the studio, just do a couple bits, and they sent them to me, and I've used those. I've used my brother, I've used a couple other people to record titles and things. My brother's a vocal, an actor and a voiceover artist, so it made it easy. I just send it to him and say, when at your home studio in your closet, please do this for me, And he sends me the files. He says, I don't know what this is about, but here, I'll read these. I'll read these things 3 different ways, each of these, and I'll give it to you. And I used them. I just literally we had a show we did a couple of weeks ago called Making the Impossible Possible. And if your example is not, if your situation is not an example of that, I don't know what it is. It's a premier example. You step into the unknown. We've always done something traditionally, and we know how that works and how it goes, and we know how much it costs. And to some people, that could be daunting. Then you have to figure out how to jimmy jack this next album, right? I call it jimmy jacking, not my term. However, it is highly appropriate when you say, okay, we're going to MacGyver this album. That would be something probably that people would understand. You know, you're going to MacGyver this album. You're going to go in your closet and listen, clothes. I mean, you go into a sound studio and there's foam everywhere, right? There's no sound bouncing off of anything in a vocal studio. And that's really what you have when you're in your own clothes closet, your own walk-in closet. I set that thing up, the mic, and just started, laptop and started talking. And it's amazing what you can do on a shoestring and how great it actually sounds.
I also and I love what you're saying, because I wanted to add for the people who are listening, I think what's the most valuable thing when you're doing an audiobook or if you're singing into a mic, that you are present with your soul and your heart. And so
exactly.
when I was in these big professional music studios with Grammy Award-winning producers, sometimes there would be an energy there where, when I was working on one song, I remember some of the guys hated each other in the studio, and they would tell me, like, I hate that guy. And another person would say, I don't like him. And it's hard because then if you're a sensitive person, which when, I try to keep my heart open and, and be sensitive, especially when I'm singing, that affects you. And I remember being in the studio, mm-hmm. and when I was singing a song, I wasn't able to focus on the song because I was thinking about these guys who hated each other, like the engineer hates the producer. And when and that's really hard because you're so when you're home and it's nighttime and it's 1:00 in the morning and it's mm-hmm. just you and a mic, there's money can't pay for that when you can sing and it feels sacred. So I think for mm-hmm. anyone who's listening, whatever you are doing, I think that it's better to do things on your own without a whole team of people with their own kind of maybe ideas or agendas or telling you it should be this way or you should. And that's the most beautiful part about doing things independently, is it's mm-hmm. your own. Yes.
I think that's awesome. If I could add to that, not only is it amazing for your heart, and let's just apply this to just about anything. If not making music, let's say you're in an office environment where there's an open bullpen, where there's no walls and then people are around. You have a lot of different energies. It's very challenging to be creative mm-hmm. and to listen to your own intuition when you have all these opposing 3D energies bouncing all over the place. And if you're empathic in any way, if you're empathic mm-hmm. like I am and like you are, and I'm sure like Lisa is, we can sense our surroundings. And putting yourself in a place that allows you to be quiet with yourself, with your own soul, with your own heart, you can channel things, writings and ideas and creative solutions that you otherwise wouldn't be able to when you're stuck in the middle of a what I call a 3D environment, a low frequency 3D environment where there's lots of opposing energies bouncing all over the place. And I feel you there with regard to that. That's it is. Where's your focus? Your focus is on what you're doing, and and that's what makes things more possible. It's interesting how if we could say that most people really that I run into never really take the time to just sit quietly by themselves. Never. It's like there's always a TV on. There's always something playing on the radio. There's always, they're always with somebody else. And they look at them and say, I don't like to be alone. What do you mean you don't like to be alone? They don't like to be alone. And it's like you've got a problem in your life, and the last thing you want to do is you want to sit and be alone and think about it and see what your heart is telling you. Intuit what your heart is telling you. What is the divine telling you at this particular point? Are you asking for any kind of assistance from the universe, from spirit, from anything? And it's this perpetual this wheel of a circle of problem. They never are able to extricate themselves from, because they're never able to sit quietly and just kind of be at peace with themselves. And that's where a lot of my creativity comes from. We do these shows completely and totally unscripted, which is amazing in its own right. However, Lisa and I and you today, we're so in sync with things. I don't like to use a script because I'm thinking about what she's saying. She's thinking about what I'm saying. Things are popping into our head, and we're able to put it together in a way that it is orchestrated from the heart. The whole thing is the whole show orchestrated from the heart, very much like you create your music. Our souls are present. Our minds are present. Our bodies, our spirits. We're all here creating this really cool thing. I heard your son. The Moon was your last one. Am I correct? That was the one you had, the most recent one.
Yes.
I believe I got that one. Really spectacular, and I'm going to encourage our listeners to get tuned into what it is that you have to offer. It is absolutely spectacular. You can just sit. Yeah, I mean, let's just put it this way. For any of our listeners out there who are experiencing anxiety, frustration, worry, you're basically experiencing all of those 3D those 3D emotions, the lower emotions of maybe some anger, some frustration, thinking about some revenge, jealousy in any way, all those things that really, those are things that take you down.
Sure.
They take it down. They waste a lot of energy and a lot of creative energy, and they just block all your intuition and your ability to move forward in life. Your songs, Franki, can help them move out of that space, exit that world, if only for a short period of time, long enough to be able to calm down, connect with their heart and soul, and be able to intuit a way through what they're dealing with. A lot of it can dissipate because a lot of it is self-perpetuating. It's anxiety becomes even more anxiety because you start extrapolating out all this negativity. What ifs? And if this happens, maybe that'll happen. And it could go to this. It could be even worse if that happens. And when you're in that space, it feeds upon itself. So you have to disconnect from that loop. That's what your music, in my view, I know it helps. It's helped other people that I know. I've literally sent your links to everybody. So, and I get a lot of positive feedback. However, I just wanted to let you know that that's how I use it, and that's how perhaps our listeners can begin to exit that loop by tapping into the frequencies of your music.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just say I listen to the sun when I'm driving. I like it to listen to it when I'm in my house with my dogs. I take it with me to the salt cave when I go and sit. I ask them if I can please put my own music on because I feel the healing aspects of that album. But I will say, and it's so interesting because the Moon is more acoustic. It's a different experience. So for me, and this is what I truly believe, that your body vibrations dictate what goes on in your house, both physically and mentally. And so sometimes there are things that shell shock you. Last night this gentleman decided to, I don't know, he just was in a road rage, and he was hell bent on trying to run us off the road. And I thought, okay, what's this all about? And instead of engaging, I just let it go, and he pulled up whatever. It was just an interesting experience, but I wasn't going to entertain it. So for me, the Moon is something that can take you from going 120 down to maybe 10 miles an hour. It just relaxes your whole nervous system. And so it helps you, unleash any energies that you no longer wish to carry and align that. And it can actually change the course of your day. And I have used it so many times that way, Frankie. I'm so grateful because sometimes, and I'm sure everybody has experienced a day where you get up on the wrong side of the bed and everything seems to not go and align the way you want it to be. And you just have to sometimes put the brakes on it. And that album 100% puts the brakes on that. It just changes it almost instantaneously. It takes me to a space and I'm like, okay, we don't need to play in that dimension anymore. I can actually be in a different space. So I'd love to hear a little bit. What is some of the other feedback you get from your listener? Have there been some remarkable differences between the two albums for you in the response?
Yeah, well, thank you both so much for all your very positive words. It really means a lot. And, the response that I've been getting on both albums has really blown me away. Like, it makes me, when I read messages, sometimes I get, on Twitter, people say things, or on Facebook, or sometimes direct messages, but it's helping people to sleep better, and to reduce their anxiety. I've had a lot of people tell me that they've tried everything to help them and nothing helps them to go to sleep except the moon and the sun. And that has been something that has been very that has been repetitive, the same messages. This is healing me, this helps me. This is just what I needed to, help me get through this hard time. But I want to say that as far as the moon and the sun goes, I try to, the world that we live in and what's going on in our world right now on the moon and the sun, I really try to keep in mind every day that this world, the physical world, there's something else other than this, and it's the, there's another realm that exists, and I try to tap into that right when I wake up in the morning to know, okay, there's something else besides this physical earth. And when I was creating the moon and the sun, I really was hoping that when people listen to it, that it reminds them that, yes, you are a physical being, but you are also an eternal being inside. And don't forget that, because I think a lot of people, we get stuck into our physical worries and our ego and fear. And when we remember that there's something else, and we are brought to that place through music, it brings us comfort that, okay, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that 110%. By the way, when you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, I call that being, and go through the day sort of with everything being a little bit off kilter, I call that being 1% off. 1 degree, I should say. 1% off, 1 degree off, but you can come back from that. And as a form of alchemy, music is one of those elements of alchemy that, in my view, everybody should have at their disposal to be able to shift their mood, to shift their attitude, to elevate their frequencies. And in my view, this is, I've said it before, I'll say it again, this is your music, Sun and the Moon, are an excellent example of what people can apply, what they can tap into to perform the alchemy necessary in their own heart and mind. And that's it's the most amazing contribution to me and my life. And I encourage other people, of course, to tap into music. Have it at your disposal to be able to shift you. If you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, in my view, the first thing you need to do on the way to work, if that's where you go, is to listen to your music. Listen to the moon, listen to the sun. Put yourself in a position, recognize, be alert enough to recognize that you're off a bit, that something else is weighing on you. And when you put yourself in a position to tap into, to recognize that and then tap into something that can help you shift, then you don't go through an entire day with this hanging over you, with being off by a degree. And that to me is the most challenging thing for people, is to actually just recognize when they need to utilize the tools that other wonderful people like yourself have given them the ability to use to do this. And that's, to me, that's, again, worth its weight in gold. I love it. I'm about to take a 2-week cruise. You're going to go along, Frankie. I know you're going to go along in my bag, in my phone.
Well, I think that a lot of people wake up, let's say, on the wrong side of the bed because they're not living their truth, maybe. And so I think music and meditation can help people find their truth. And at the core, I believe we're divine love inside. We're all love. And when we're not feeling love for our jobs or for the people that we're surrounded by, it's very we're not going to feel good. And so I think music can be used as a tool to help you get into a space where you can find what makes you happy, find what you love, have the courage to have the courage to leave behind your past if and have the courage to follow your heart and give yourself, what you deserve in this lifetime. And so, I think it's all about love, and it's all about just living your truth and your purpose here.
Yeah, oneness and connection.
Absolutely.
Oneness and connection. There's a couple of generations of that, in my view, could really tap into it. There's this narrative that is drummed into people, and it's being drummed into people so that compliance can be maintained in this world. In my view, that's what we have. We have, you need to do this from year 1 to year 18, and then at 18 you do this till 22, and then from 22 you do this to page 60. And where do people have where do you find the space to find your truth? If you're always running, it is a challenge to actually, and you refuse, of course, to sit down and discover who you are, because you don't even get the opportunity to do that. To discover what your gifts and talents are. We've had that conversation on this show, that there is none. And the way that you started playing music, as you described in the beginning of the show, is truly amazing. And I wish that other people would have the opportunity to connect with people that would allow them to connect in that way. And if candy's necessary, let's get a lot of candy.
Sweeten the deal, yeah.
Let's get some.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's sweeten the deal. Yeah, I love that line. Yeah, there you go. Let's sweeten the deal.
Sweeten the deal.
I mean, that's what's necessary. You can't, if you're so busy trying to learn math, and we have to learn English, we have to learn how to speak, but we have to have some time to be able to discover what brings us a sense of satisfaction in this life, whatever it is and there may be many things, several things, but tapping into those things is something that should be on the docket from a very young age. And I know my mother gave me the opportunity at 7 years of age, when I was beating on furniture rhythmically. She just got tired of it and decided, I'm taking you to the officers club drummer. And let him deal with you. Let him teach you how to play something. It seems like you stop beat on something else. So that's exactly what happened. And I went and I discovered that I had a love of playing rhythm and an intuitive gift to play music. And that, to me, I just saw her last week, and I on the way out, I hugged her and I said, thank you so much. You're the best mom. Everything. I am who I am because of you, and I don't want you to ever forget that. She's 94 years old right now, and wonderful and lively and vibrant.
Such a blessing.
Yeah, I see it as such, and I treasure every moment. And I did with my dad until his passing. Said the same thing. I wrote my dad a letter, actually. If he was going into dementia, I wrote him a letter that in the first couple of years of it, when he was still very coherent and not so deep into forgetting the last moment. And I feel for people who are caregivers, and I stress again, if you are a caregiver, if in any capacity, play this music. I mean, my gosh, exactly. Wouldn't that be absolutely amazing that you could actually sense how where it could take you, instead of focusing on the drama and on the 3D aspect of what you have to do. Why not play this music? There are so many applications that I can. They're just coming out of my brain at this particular point.
Michael, you and I are so in tune. I thought the exact same thing. I think, if you have an opportunity to, Franki's website is frankilovemusic.com, and you have links to your other social media and things like that. So it's Franki with an I, lovemusic.com. But I believe that incorporating into a self-care routine could absolutely improve your daily life in so many ways, whether it's for spiritual development, meditation, maybe you have an emotional catharsis you want to release, promoting better sleep, just actually I feel very free when I listen to your music, Franki, and I think when I have that sense of freedom, there's nothing, I just say it over again. It's just such a gift in my life, and you are a gift to so many people, and we feel so blessed and honored to have you on the show. And I don't know if you want. When we get on here, time seems to fly, and I'd love to have you come back, and because I'd love to hear more about you finding your voice. There's so many questions I have, and we have just an hour to work with.
Can't fill an hour.
It would be awesome. But if you want to leave,
here's an idea.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's an idea. We'll have you back about sometime in January, so that people can start out a whole new routine, start out the year with something very positive. How about that? Like the second or third week, if we can put it together, where we can do a show about maybe setting realistic expectations, about finding who you are, about delving in yourself and using your music as a platform for helping that happen.
That sounds fun. Yeah, and I think the new year is a good time to do it, and I feel as though 2023 is going to be a positive year, a very transformative year for everyone.
Absolutely, for a lot of people.
I do too.
Absolutely. But thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And
thank you,
if you want to leave our audience
wonderful.
with anything, thank you so much. Any last thoughts, Franki, you'd like to leave our audience with?
I guess I'd just like to say that what's helped me over this past year in 2022 is something very simple that I'd like to share, which is gratitude. And whenever I'm feeling like a shift in my frequency, if I'm feeling down about anything, I just go back to gratitude. What am I grateful for? And it's become something that I do throughout the day, just stay in gratitude for everything.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And thank you to all of you for joining us here on Connect to Love on PRN-FM. And thank you, Franki, and thank you, Michael. It's just an amazing, this time and space has been such an amazing gift, and appreciate all of our listeners for joining in. Michael, do you want to leave anything, closing thoughts?
Happy holidays. It's a holiday show. Happy holidays.
Absolutely.
Make the season bright, and use Franki Love's music to do it.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Silent Night. Want to hear it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.